if you've got a really good product. The problem, like, and if you take a look through the stuff that is coming on the market right now, power of attorney, estate sales, or, you know, genuinely like vacant houses, you see it like, it's, there's very, very little really good high quality product. And so what I actually did this morning, I went through and took any properties that are sort of 4 or 5 days on the market, and I tagged the good ones, like the ones that are like, that's a nice house, that's a nice house, this one's, you know, staged and updated, because I want to see how they actually sell in the coming week. You know, I think you're right.
People holding back on those.
Yep. I think, you know, I absolutely think that you're right. Like, it's December can be a really great time if you've got a good product.
There's no competition.
But the rule applies. You have to still price it right, and you gotta you gotta prepare it correctly. Like, if you don't do those things, I mean, buckle up.
The problem, I think, maybe also buyers are a little more like out as well, thinking about holiday stuff and.
Some of them, but I mean, we've like
been shopping for so long. They just at this point they're like, just show me something I can buy.
During one of the pivotal World Cup games, I got people out. They cared about, like they were watching on their phone.
They were watching the.
If they're serious, they're serious, and they'll come out and take a look at it. So that's the sort of takeaway is, like, we have a handful of people that are pretty, you know, pretty serious, and they're shopping, they're looking.
That's good.
It's just the time of year, and I think what we really badly need is a neutral interest rate announcement.
January.
Just neutral. No ups, no downs. And I think it'll bring some confidence in the market. The message that should be going out to anybody that is actively thinking about upsize of any kind, like if you're moving from something into something bigger, more expensive, whatever, this is actually a really good time to do that. If you can handle the payments, that's the biggest thing. Like if the mortgage payment, if the difference makes sense from a mortgage perspective, then you should absolutely be doing it. And the problem is that we have in the media, like the media has always been really good at like just talking about what's bad. If it's a slow news day, they talk about a boat that capsized in Indonesia. And you're like, that's not news here, really, but they still talk about it because it's like, you know, like, and so if they were to report on what's actually happening in the market, I think first of all it'd be a little bit too complex for them to get into a 30-second soundbite. It's much easier just to be like, housing is down 50%. Sales are down 50%. Sales are down 50%. The actual price of the homes, however, is down 15%, let's say, because it varies.
The peak, not from last month.
Yeah, and it's down different amounts in different areas. Like there are some areas where it's down 35–40%, and then some other areas where it's only down like 5 to 7%, and then there's some other areas that it's actually even, like hasn't gone down at all. And so it's really important, and this is the part that I get. It's hard, it would be difficult to report on the statistics of why, you know, what's happening in the individual housing market. And so we're gonna get to the why it's a good thing to sell your house and move into a bigger house. This is kind of where we're going with this. But first you have to understand what's happening in the market is that the more expensive, well, back it up. First of all, you've reduced your data set by 50%. Okay, last year we had twice as many homes to create our data set. So now that data set is shrunk by 50%. And most importantly, The 50% of the homes that haven't sold are the nice, more expensive homes that people don't have to sell. They are removed from the market. They're like, I'm not selling right now. It's not a great time. I don't have to go anywhere. So I'm going to sit tight right now. And I have a fixed mortgage, and I'm just going to have a lovely couple of years while this thing, and then, you know, when the market returns, I'll come back out at that point. So the data set is influenced by those nicer homes. Okay, so now we have like vacant houses, power of attorney, estate sales. They are the predominant listing on the market right now. And they tend to be on the lower end of the market because they're not renovated, updated, staged, prepared. So now the prices are pulled down by the absence of this nicer home that's not there. And then on top of that, your like super luxury homes, we'll call them, the homes that are like 2.5 to 3.54 million dollars are also removed because they're not for sale, because they're not selling. Okay, and because they're not selling, they're sitting there, maybe builders that are being pressed. And so the builders are like, well, I'm going to sacrifice some profit margin here to sell the home. And so now that house, and this is where we get to the, you know, if you're a buyer, okay, this is what opportunity looks like in the city. Okay, so this more expensive home that you wanted to buy before that was $2.7 million is now 2.4 or 2.3. And we experienced this. Okay, so now you've got a $300,000 advantage on your buy. Okay, let's say, and it's not unreasonable because we, like, again, like this is based in reality. Like we did this. That house would have been 2.7 all day long in February, and we get it for 2.49. So there's, and I think that there are opportunities, you know, even lower, like the 2.4, 2.3, and these are houses that would have been 2.6, and they're sitting on the market. They're on the market today. Okay, so now you have that, and like everybody asks, well, what about my house? I have to sell my house to be able to do this. Your house, if it's reasonably nice and prepared and up, you know, like painted and cleaned and staged, doesn't exist on the market. Nobody's selling that property. So are you going to be able to get the 1.8, 1.7 that you would have got in February? Nope. But you're going to get 1.6, 1.55. So it's a $150,000 price reduction on your house from February, and a $300,000 deduction on the price of the home that you want to buy. Now I'm going to do some quick math here. That seems like a $150,000 win. The delta, the difference between what you're going to sell your house for and what you're going to buy your new house for has shrunk by, let's say, $150,000. And so the key here is, rather than looking at the macro data, you know, this idea of like Canadian house prices are down 15 to 25%. Where you live? Are you sure? And the only way to be sure is to actually call somebody who knows that particular market, can put their money where their mouth is and say, this is what we can do. And to paint a picture of in reality is like, I would love to tell you I can get 1.75 for your house. I can't anymore. This is the number we should bank on, and I know I can do it. The other thing that we can do in this situation is you have this more expensive house that's been sitting on the market for 45, 50 days. How about put a condition on the sale of your home? Like, when were you able to do that before?
Not last February.
Not in most real estate agents' careers that are in, you know, a lot of people have been licensed in the last 4, 5, 6 years. They don't even know what this condition is. It's like it's a myth. They heard about it at a party once. So, but this is the reality now, is if you're thinking about doing this, it could actually be a really great time for you to make that move. The only way for you to know is to actually reach out and talk to somebody that actually has your best interest in mind and doesn't use some tacky catchphrase like date the rate. Somebody actually said this shit to me, and it's like a TikTok. It's like a TikTok catchphrase. It's like date the rate. Marry the mortgage, date the rate. And I was like, can you imagine talking to a lawyer or somebody and they got like some catchphrase from TikTok that they're using and you're like,
I'm gonna go with another lender.
I'm just gonna go. We like, it just isn't professional. And it's not like, you're not dating anything. You have to pay this shit. You are married to that. For as short a period of time as it may be, you gotta pay. And so, can you afford it? Is the first question. Where's your comfort zone on affordability? What does that look like? Okay, now let's look what house is available in that comfort zone. And then last but not least, what can we sell your house for? And then we put those three things together, and then that equals the upsize we can do. And then you take that nice little package of information and you say, it's Friday, let's talk on Tuesday. Give you and your significant other the opportunity to discuss whether or not this is a good move for you. Let me know. But nobody's really nobody's talking about this. Very few people are talking about this. Everybody's in the date the rate conversation. Like, it just smells of desperation. It's like, you'll be fine. I won't be fine if you don't buy this house though, right? And it's like, put the people first. Actually talk about what's right for them at this particular time. And I would say on the other side, if your grandmother was going to sell her house and move into a condo right now, good time? Stay right where you are, Grandma. Why would you downsize? This is crazy talk. Unless you have to do it on a downsize, my advice to my grandmother would be, sit tight. I'll come visit on Sundays.
But condos, like, isn't there like an opportunity?
I think there is an opportunity in condos, but I don't think it's the same opportunity because you're selling a house that's probably not updated.
And I don't think that the condo market, like, I don't think that opportunity is going to be going away. There's just so much supply. There's going to be more.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think once the market bounces back, they're going to be slower to get there, and then with the foreign buyer ban and blah blah blah, right?
I think there's going to be all kinds of opportunities staying in the condo market for a long, long time. But houses will resurge and they'll bounce back really strong. So I would say, you know, and like, unless Grandma is some sort of like interior design guru, but the chances are she's got a kitchen that they put in the 50s that your granddad built. They probably got some asbestos tile in the basement. You know what I mean? Like, they have things that aren't particularly great for your new buyers that are coming in and picking these things up. The other thing that I will say is that because rates are where they are, and people are getting, you know, some pressure on paying the mortgage, what they're not able to do that they could do before is to buy a house and then make improvements. They don't have that extra income right now to do that, as is evidenced by our builders like the people that we know that work with us. They are not busy right now for like the first time in forever. They're not overly busy, and they're like, oh, what's happened? Well, everybody's spending on their mortgage, aren't they? And everybody's, they're a little bit nervous about maybe what's going to happen in the market. Like, not the real estate market, but the stock market and the general economy. And so those extra things are starting to go away now. That idea of a renovation is postponed. And everybody that's talking even renovations right now is talking next year. Instead of, yeah, let's get it done before Christmas. It'd be wonderful. We'll have everybody over for Christmas. They're like, kids table, right? Like there's very little activity going on right now. And so that's why it's so important, like to tell somebody if that's going to make a downsize or that's going to sell something that's not perfect. Unless you have to sell it, unless you're in a position where like in the next 2 years, you can't really hold this for 2 years. If they can hold on to it, my recommendation is to do exactly that. But upsizers, like, you heard it here first.